joining. This afternoon's presentation is meant for those that are new to Terrain Navigator Pro. We would like to welcome some of our MyTopo Map past customers that are new to Terrain Navigator Pro. So we thought we would take this month, in the month of January, to go ahead and review some of the basics in Terrain Navigator Pro. So a warm welcome to our Map Pass customers this afternoon. And then there might be some of our existing Terrain Navigator Pro customers. We welcome you as well. That maybe you have some questions on some of the basics, and this will be a great review for us all. So thank you so much. So today's webinar, here's a review of the most commonly used features in Terrain Navigator Pro. And basically, we're going to talk about how to find a map, how to add markers. I apologize, I've got a typo here. Add markers, add polygons, add labels. We're going to talk a little bit about how to make and print those maps and have them look professional. And then we're going to talk about how to save those maps so that you can access them should you need to print those maps down the road. So that's basically just a real quick overview this afternoon. I expect that this afternoon's webinar won't take that long at all, but we'll go through some of the basics here. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead, I'm going to switch over to Terrain Navigator Pro. So let me go ahead and bring my Terrain Navigator Pro into the window so that everyone can view that. Just want to make sure everybody can see that window. And just want to check something here. Okay. Fantastic. So when you open Terrain Navigator Pro, just a couple of quick things on Terrain Navigator Pro. Terrain Navigator Pro, as such, as a mapping program, is a GIS program. And when we're talking about GIS, what we're talking about is having a map and then having individual layers on a map that can be hidden or can be shown on a map. So when you open Terrain Navigator Pro, it will open to an overview of your area. For the purposes of this afternoon's demonstration, I've chosen the state of Louisiana. So, okay, you open Terrain Navigator Pro, you have your overview map over your state, or if you have a region, let's say like New England, you know, it will display the New England region. So here we are, and we're in Louisiana. The one thing that you want to do is to be able to find your location on the map. And Terrain Navigator Pro makes that very easy. So what we can do is under the Find menu, for example, there are a number of different ways or items that you can search on to find your location on the map. So for example, you can find on street address, you can find on zip code. We do have a category. Let's say there's a specific lake, or you know, there's a bay or beach or an inland oil field that you're looking for. You can use the browse category. So for this afternoon, let's go ahead and search on an address. So let's say I know my address and I know my road might be O'Neill Road. What I can go ahead and do is type in and find address, my address, and Terrain Navigator Pro will come up with a list of addresses that are in a specific range. So let's say I know that my range is for example, within the 1000 to the 1099. I can go ahead then and replace my active map. When I do that, Terrain Navigator Pro is going to center the location over that map. And that's what this red circle denotes. It denotes the center of the map. If I hover my mouse over that red circle, you'll see that red X. And to get rid of that on the map, I just left click and that will remove that red circle. So one of the things that you can do now, you've got an area that is in that location, and you now can, just determine what type of map do I want to be able to print. So in Terrain Navigator Pro, our maps are found on the toolbar, and here, just a couple of things here. This top 1 in 18,056 represents the scale of the map. We'll talk about scale in a little bit. And then directly underneath that are the different types of maps. So right now I'm set to aerial photo, but let's say I wanted to see the topo map over this specific region. I can change my map by selecting the type of map that I'd like. So I'll let you go ahead and, you can go ahead and change those as you'd like. One of the things that Terrain Navigator Pro also allows you to do with the different map types, for example, with a satellite photo, we have a standard satellite and we have a hybrid satellite street photo. So, I could change the type of map that's going to show me, for example, the road locations or the different streets and so forth. One of the nice things that you can do is merge the map with, let's say, a topographic map. Let's say you want to, if there are contour levels that are lines that are available on your topo map, you can do a merged type of a map. And Louisiana is a little bit flat here. You don't really see a lot in the way of contours, but you could see some of like the lines here, for example. So I'll let you play with the different types of maps, but the map library does consist of the individual types of maps, and also there's so many different permutations you could play with. So I'll let you take care of those things. Now, just a word on scale. There's a couple of ways to zoom into a specific map. One of the easiest ways to do that, and one of the ways that I like to do that, is with the mouse wheel. So with a mouse wheel, I can just go ahead and, zoom in incrementally into my map. If you don't have a mouse wheel and you're working, let's say, with a mouse pad or, the trackball or something like that, you can also scale in using the scale in or scale out, the plus or the minus. You can also select the drop-down list and be able to select the type of scale that you'd like. Now, just a word about scales. Let's say that the scale that you're really looking for is not in the list. You can go ahead and type in the specific scale that you're looking for. So for example, if I wanted to, I could say, I want a 6025 scale. I can type that in, press enter, and it will bring me into that scale. So there are a number of ways to change scales in Terrain Navigator Pro. So let's go ahead. We've talked a little bit about our map library, the different types of maps available. We've talked about how to find a location on a map. The next thing that we'd like to talk about is, let's go ahead and we've got our map and we want to be able to, label. One of the things that a lot of our customers like to do is label things on a map. So we're going to go over here to the tool menu. We're going to select our label menu. It's label tool. It's the one with the A on that. So let's say, for example, I want to label this building right here. So I can left click and you'll see I can go ahead. I can spread out the size of my label here, and I can edit my label. And what I did to access this was I right-clicked on that. And let's say we know that this is, I don't know, let's call it Joe Smith's house. Okay, we can change the text. And then we have a number of preferences. We can change, for example, the font. If we don't like Arial, we can choose from a number of different types of fonts. We can change the size. Maybe 72 is a little bit too big, so maybe we'd like to drop that down, and maybe we want it just to be a regular font style, and we can click OK. You'll see my label appears. I can change the color, for example. So a lot of different preferences that you can select in Terrain Navigator Pro. Maybe you don't like, you want it to be an oval. All kinds of different things that you can do in Terrain Navigator Pro. Even including different things like thin line, or how you want and where you want the beginning and end of it to be. So let's go ahead and background. I mean, there's just so many different options that you can do to change your labels. Let's go ahead and click close. Now what I can do is I can move this anywhere on the map. I can resize it if it's too big, but basically a lot of customers like to label things on a map. So you would use the label tool to do that. Another thing that our customers like to do is to put a marker at a specific location. And so one of the ways to do that is to use our marker tool. So again, on the toolbar, I'm clicking on the marker tool. It's the triangle with the dot in the middle. And let's say you'll see that my cursor has become a triangle. I can go ahead, and where this W is, maybe that's a place that I want to place a marker. I will left click on that. And if I use the mouse button and right click, I can go ahead and edit that marker. I can, maybe this is a water storage tank. I can change the name of it. And again, I right click to access this window. All kinds of things that I can change here. Again, like I did before, color, I can change a background color. I can change the symbol. I can go to symbology, and maybe I'd like to change it from a circle to, I want it to be a W, for example. So I can go ahead and I can change, again, in the symbology, I can change the size. Perhaps I'd like it a little bit larger. So all kinds of, depending on your application, you can select those preferences that are beneficial for you. You can also make some notes in here. So a lot of good information for your markers. Okay, so we've covered using the label tool. We've talked about using markers. Another handy tool for our customers as they're getting ready to create professional maps is our Polygon tool. And our Polygon tool is this one here. It's the last one that's under the track tool that looks like kind of like a pencil. But the Polygon tool here, I'm going to go ahead and left click on that. And that is used to determine area, acreage, and perimeter of a specific location. So let's say, for example, along this route, I want to know what the area, the acreage, and the perimeter is. I'm going to, with my mouse, left click, and I can place points and along this area. And one of the things that you'll see is I'm just left clicking. Let's say, geez, I missed the polygon. I can either move the vertice, or I can also left click with my mouse, and I can get a better representation of my polygon. So that's a real nice feature in Terrain Navigator Pro, where you can either click on the vertice or on the line to get as accurate as you can. Now you'll see this polygon that I've created is 29.62 acres. I want to get a little bit more information just to show you how to use this Polygon tool. I can right click on this and I can say information. And when I do that, you'll see here's the information, the name of it. I haven't changed the name yet, so it's Polygon 3. Here's the area in acres and square meters. Here's my perimeter in both feet and kilometers. So I can go ahead and close this out. So one of the things that you'll see is that each of these, whether it's text, whether it's a marker, polygon. There's a number of different things that are layers on my map. And before we go to printing our map and saving our map, I do want to show you, again, for those folks that might not be familiar with GIS and the concept of layers, we can choose which of these layers to show on our map, which ones to hide. I like using the shortcut tool. It's under the help, and it looks like a parallelogram with an arrow. But basically, if I left click on this on the toolbar, this is going to bring up a shortcut to my layers on my map. And this is where I can either hide my layers or I can show my layers. So for example, right now, if I wanted to, I can go to our, let's see, labels, and I can say, okay, I don't want to show labels on my map. Let me go ahead and hide labels, excuse me. And you'll see that they're not on my map. I can do the same thing for markers. One of the things for those of you, I'm going to go ahead and turn those layers back on. But for those of you that also have the parcel data subscription, I can turn on parcels from this. Parcels are a layer in Terrain Navigator Pro. And for those of you that are not familiar with that, it's a layer that's an additional subscription. It's $120, and it will allow you to show the land ownership information. So if I turn on layers of my parcels, let me go ahead and close that for a second. My parcels will come in. And so, for example, the land ownership information as a layer, if I right click, I can get parcel information. And for this parcel of land, I can get the area, I can get the acreage, the perimeter. I can also get the tax ID number, and I can get the owner. So it's a real nice way of easily determining land ownership and also area, acreage, perimeter, and tax ID. I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I will go back to my layers shortcut, and I'm going to turn off my parcels, and we'll get into printing. Okay, so let's say I have my map, I have it the way that I like, and I want to go ahead and print my map. I would go to the File menu. I would then choose Print and Publish Map. And you'll see your map will come up on the right-hand side. And one of the things that's nice with this particular feature is desktop publishing has been built into Terrain Navigator Pro. So you can easily print your color maps on your printer, and you can also save maps to PDF, which is very beneficial. So what I've done here is you'll see on the map, my cursor is a drag tool or the hand. So let's say I really want to center my map. I can do that using the hand tool. Now, on the left-hand side, this is a basic ability to add things to this map. And I just wanted to go over a couple of things. When you come into the Print Publish Map, you'll see on the outside, you'll see there's a ruler. And you can say, well, I really don't want to see that ruler there. You would go to the grid style, and what you'll see is a drop-down list. So the default is to show you, right now I've got it set, the default is to your location, your latitude, longitude. And I can say, well, I really don't want that. I just want the map to show through. So I can turn off the ruler and just have the map. There's a number of different things that you can do. You can say, I want just the ruler, and I don't want, for example, the grid that was displayed when it defaulted to that. So there's a number of different selections here, but let's say, for example, you want to keep the ruler on, you can go ahead and do that. And the next thing that a lot of folks would say, well, I don't really use degrees, minutes, seconds. I'd like the coordinates on the outside of the map to be a different coordinate system. So under Format, you can go ahead and Terrain Navigator Pro has a number of different coordinate systems. So you can say, okay, I really don't want degrees, minutes, seconds. I'd really like UTM. And what you'll see is that the ruler around the map changes to the UTM coordinate system. You can also select the type of datum that you would like. So Terrain Navigator Pro will default to your primary coordinate system, but you can make the changes here in the print menu. So a lot of flexibility and a lot of time went into helping our customers to be able to create professional looking maps. So we can go ahead, and I'm just going to go back to degrees, minutes, seconds for now. Just a couple of things here. Let's say we've got our map, but man, we're not really, it's not the scale that we were hoping for. We can choose the scale and we can say, okay, what I'd really like to do is go ahead and have the scale be changed. So I can select from the drop-down list the scale. And I can also, right now, I've changed the scale, I've changed the coordinates. I can also select the type of map that I'd like. Well, maybe I didn't want the merged map. Maybe I just wanted to print a topo map. So you'll see there's a number of different selections here that you can change to your heart's content. So we'll just go back to the satellite for now. And so that's how you would change when you're getting ready to print your map. Frame style is going to be on the outside. You can say, I don't want a frame. And so that's the thickness of the line around it. You can have single, you can choose double, et cetera, et cetera. Some people like their lines thicker or so forth. Now, a little bit more on the idea of blocks. The blocks to insert, we've talked about Terrain Navigator Pro being full desktop publishing for your maps. One of the things that our customers like to do, for example, is to include a compass. Those look real nice on our maps. This, when I choose to insert a page block in Terrain Navigator Pro, I do that from this drop-down list here. And right now, I have a USGS compass with a magnetic and UTM grid declination. Well, maybe I'd like something a little bit more fancier. Maybe I wanted the 4 pointed compass rows. So you'll see Terrain Navigator Pro has updated the graphic. I can say, I would like this when I go to print my map. I would really like that to be, here. And then using the edges of the, the handlebars, I can adjust the size, for example. So there's all kinds of ways to customize your Terrain Navigator Pro map. Another page block that a lot of customers like to do is they like to say, okay, I'd like to include, I want this to be a professional looking map. I would like to include my own artwork. So if I choose that, you'll see right here, it gave me a page block for my picture. Then I can go ahead and I can click on choose picture to insert. And then it will come up with a window and I can find my business graphic on my computer and insert that as a page block here. So again, a number of different ways to be able to professionally set up your map for printing. Just want to go over to the next tab here. It's under the Pages menu. And this is where you would specify your margins. You can change your top margin, your right margin, et cetera, et cetera. A couple of different things that you can also do in this particular window is align your page blocks. You can also lock from movement and do some other things here. So more flexibility for you. Our next tab which is our printer file tab, is an important one. This is where you would select your printer. So you can go ahead and if you have a printer, you can select that, and then you can choose whatever size that you would like for your map to be, the type of orientation. And this window here, just keep this one in, excuse me, this tab here, you want to keep in mind. You can save your map as a file for storage on your computer, so that you can either send it around to other folks or have it as a different type of map. So the different types of files that you can save would be JPEG, a bitmap, a shapefile, which is the KMZ file, and here's the PDF file. A number of customers, once they've laid out their map, they want to save it as a PDF file so that they can send it to clients. And again, you really want to know that the place that you can specify is going to be save as type. It's under the printer file. You can also, as I said, there's a number of different ones that you can select there. Now, when you're selecting the, let's say you want to save it as a PDF file, you can put in the dimensions and also the DPI. And that would be handy if you want to, let's say you've got your map, you've labeled it for our MapPass customers. You can, let's say you want to have MyTopo print out a laminate. Let's say you want it to be a larger than an 8.5 by 11. Maybe you want a wall size map and you want it laminated. Our sister company, MyTopo, can print and laminate that for you. You provide them with a custom PDF. So what you would do here is you would select in inches how big you want what the width and the height is, and also the DPI, and send them the PDF file, and they can go ahead and get that printed for you. So a number of ways there to take care of printing your maps. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this, and we're kind of getting towards the end of this afternoon's webinar. But the last thing I do want to cover is, okay, I've created my map, I put my labels and my layers on my map, I've printed my map. Now, how do I save it? And that is done by creating a project in Terrain Navigator Pro. So you would go to the Layers menu, you would go to Manage Projects, and here, what you would be able to do is to create a new project. The way that you could create a new project is to click on the New button. Again, that's under Layers, Manage Projects. And if you are going to be using this map and you're not using the Terrain Navigator Pro mobile app for use in the field, then what you can do is keep the project exclusively on this PC. Otherwise, you would sync it with a Terrain Navigator Pro mobile project and do some data collection in the field. But for the purposes of this afternoon's webinar, we'll stick to working with just on the PC. And we can go ahead and we can give our project a name. Let's call this a Wednesday test project. And so I'm giving a name to my project or to my map. I'm going to click Finish, and I'm going to close my window. Now, one of the things that sometimes can be confusing is, hey, which project am I in? So to locate the project that you're in Terrain Navigator Pro, in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a little icon for Terrain Navigator Pro. You'll see the state that you're located. Some of our customers might have multiple states like I do. So right now we're in the state of Louisiana. And the name of the project that I'm currently working in is Wednesday Test Project. So I did have a question. So basically, that is how you would save your map. You might need to come back to that map down the road and edit it for a customer. And it's a great way to keep track of your projects or your maps. They would be projects in Terrain Navigator Pro. So again, very important is layers, manage projects, and you'll see I have a number of different projects available, and you can select it and you can activate it. I did have a question about going back to the print publish map. So let me go back to print and publish map. And the question specifically was the last tab has to do with templates. In Terrain Navigator Pro, we do have a number of different types of folks using our software. For example, we have people in search and rescue. We have people that are in real estate. So what we did with our printing feature is provided a set of templates that are a little bit more advanced than the original one that I showed you. So for example, I have this template in Terrain Navigator Pro, and it's a basic GIS map. I can load that template, and you'll see the basic GIS template doesn't have any of the, doesn't have the coordinate ruler around the map. It has a legend, for example. It's got the artwork and so forth. I can start with this particular template and then be able to, make some changes to this and customize that. So again, we do have a number of different things. Again, let's say I wanted to add some artwork or something. I can take my basic template here and I can make some changes to some of these. And then I can go ahead and say, okay, I've made some changes here. Let's say I wanted to include, here's my Trimble artwork here. I can go ahead and change that. And I can, change this name in this template and call it basic map 2. And I can go ahead and save that. And you'll see that that comes up in the list, and I can pull that up the next time. So, well, that pretty much gets us to where we need to be here. I'd like to go ahead and ask if anyone has any questions at this point. Let me go ahead and check here. I'm just in our text messages here about questions that we have. So we've talked about templates. Is there a way to identify imagery source and date? So Tim, that's a great question. So in Terrain Navigator Pro, let's just talk a little bit about date. If I change this map to an aerial photo and I click, you'll see within Terrain Navigator Pro, there's a number of different years. So we have aerial photos for this area that go back to, let's say, 1998. So the advantage in this would be if you need to do some comparison, if you need to, you want to take a look at some of the historical aerial photos, you can get the date that way. You can choose, a satellite photo from 2009, see if there's building structures that were there at that time. Tim, now, as far as our satellite photos are concerned and being able to date those, we do provide the most current satellite photos. It's usually within the last year or two. We are dependent on our source for our satellite photo, and in every location, we can't guarantee what the date is or to be able to know how that is. And so with satellite photos, that's a little bit more tricky. If we're talking about USGS topographic maps, TNP, of course, got its start with the topographic maps, and the ones that are provided in our software are the last hand-drawn USGS topographic maps that have quite a bit, as you'll see here, quite a bit of detail. A lot of our customers that are working in either forestry or surveying do make use of some of the detailed topo maps. And so those are going to vary. Again, those quad sheets would vary from location to location. Let me just check here. I have a question here from Jack. How do I keep the label text from wrapping to the second line when I go to the printer menu? Let me see here. So Jack, trying to, you can change, if you're having problems with your label, let's say again, we place our label here. I'm going to go ahead and edit my label. Let's leave it as label 6. You might be able to adjust here in the size of the label. You might try a different font, Jack, to see if that will help you. So that's one suggestion for you. Fred has a question. How do I get a copy of this recording? Fred, if you responded to us, we have that in your email in our user voice system, and I can send you a link to the recording when it gets updated to our YouTube channel. Alternatively, you can send me an email or send the email to tnpsupport.com and request a copy of the recording. I have a question here from Mary Shaw. How do I pull our maps from my topo into TNP? And so, Mary, the issue with taking maps from your My Topo, the maps are not what you are going to be bringing into Terrain Navigator Pro. It is going to be the layers. It would be markers, routes, or tracks. And that is done using the GPX file format. If you contact our technical support, Mary, they can send an article to you which discusses how to take the layers from My Topo and save them as GPX files, and then how to import those into Terrain Navigator Pro. So contact Mary, our technical support. They can send you a knowledge base article. Mary, you can also contact me if you're having problems with that. And I can, set up a free training with you, and we'll be able to get your data from your My Topo into Terrain Navigator Pro. Paige has a note here. You can go to YouTube and search for Terrain Navigator. All the webinars are stored on the YouTube channel. I have a question here from Ben Stone. I would like to use Google Earth Pro images. Is that possible? In terms of Google Earth, Ben, there's an ability to show Google Earth images in Terrain Navigator Pro, but I will ask Ed, our product manager. Ed, is it possible to print Google Earth? No, that's a limitation, Ben, of that is a limitation that is by Google Earth, that we are not able to print their images. You can only print the maps that are available in our map library. And do we have any more questions? You can also, if you're comfortable and you want to ask a question, you can unmute yourself. And if you have any questions, we can take those at this time. Robert, thank you for the thank you, and you're welcome for the closed captioning. If we don't have any more questions, then I think that brings our training webinar to a close. We thank you for joining us this afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you at the end of February, the last February in the last Wednesday in February for our next TNP training. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.